I'm here to tell the story about how the university, in my case, Arizona State University, works with our partners in state government, local government, and with private enterprise to advance the economy of the state and our market. In particular, I'll go through a number of things that have to do with what our president calls the New American University as a model for how we do what I just said, how we really make an impact in our community, how we grow the economy together with our partners, and how we stand in terms of the development of the New American University as a model for doing all that in a very productive way while growing the institution and the academic mission of the university. The three legs of the stool of the New American University are on the slide: excellence, access, and impact. I'll just talk about excellence and access briefly and then get into the impact side of it, which is largely what we're here to talk about today. That is the impact on our economy and our marketplace. I should start by saying where I fit within the organization. I'm a part of something called Oakhead, which is not the new Arizona winery in the Phoenix area. It is something called the Office of Knowledge Enterprise Development. It is an umbrella organization that really includes the research organization of the university, but more than that, it includes the multidisciplinary institutes and initiatives of the university, many of which I'll highlight here today and talk about in some detail as examples of how we cut across the silos within the university, how we bring in faculty and students and programs from across the university in one place to solve a problem, to advance the economy, to bring in more research dollars in a particular area. So OCAD, or the Office of Knowledge Enterprise Development, was formed recently and led by Dr. Rick Shangraw to take charge of the entire research enterprise of the university, but also to grow those institutes and endeavors. SkySong, as Rob mentioned, is one of those initiatives that the university has been at the forefront in developing, in particular in the city of Scottsdale, in growing that economy and bringing more business to the region and to the state. What I like about doing what I do is that, as I mentioned, you can't do any of this without partnering with private enterprise, without your state and local government representatives, and the magic of how that can all come together and tap the strengths and resources and missions and objectives of each one of those sectors is what makes it successful and actually the most challenging and the most fun part of it. So I'll talk a little bit about who we are, what we do, how we did it, what we try to do in the past, and how we're going to go forward in the future. But first, again, a little bit more about what we call the New American University. I'll talk first about access. It is very important to Arizona State University that we accept all qualified students. We do not measure ourselves by who we reject. We measure ourselves by who we accept. We are one of the largest universities in the country. We have over 70,000 students at the moment on 4 campuses. We produce over 16,000 graduates every year. As my President Crow likes to say, we're all about excellence, access, and impact, which translates into people, ideas, and stuff. I love it when he talks academically about these things. And when I think about what we're all about, one of the major things is making sure that we bring in the most talented students we possibly can, not exclude them just to look more exclusive in the marketplace, educate them and produce them for the development of our economy and our state. So workforce development, as was mentioned earlier today, is one of the key things that we focus on in the world of access in our model for the New American University. Most recently, we were judged as one of the top 5 universities by the Wall Street Journal in terms of the workforce development aspects of what we do, the output of our students, and how they fit into today's economy. In terms of excellence, we also have 2 features in that respect, the faculty members and the students themselves. So we don't just take everybody that walks through the door, excuse me, we take the highest quality students we possibly can. And as you can see by some of the metrics on the screen, we've been recognized for having done that. Our Barrett Honors College tops Stanford, MIT, and Duke in the number of National Merit Scholars recruited every year. 1/3 of our freshmen are in the top 10% of their class. We have more Fulbright scholars than virtually every university in the public arena. We're 6th overall, tied with Princeton and Berkeley. So you can see, and we've been judged as one of the top 100 universities in the world. So as we've built what I'm going to explain in terms of the impact side of our new American University model, we've also raised the stature of the university in the process. You can't do one without the other. We've accepted as many of the qualified students as we can, and we've built a student body and a faculty that is world-renowned. These are some of the metrics that apply to the excellence that we've built in the faculty. Pictures of our 3 Nobel laureates. To the right, we also have, as you can see in the metrics on the slide, 11 National Academy of Science members, and the rest of the data that I simply won't read. You can see what we have built over the last few years, particularly after President Crow has come in 2002. Our Nobel laureates, the picture to the right, are Edward Prescott. He's chair of our economics program at the business school at ASU, and the first ASU grown Nobel laureate. The other 2 are Ellen Ostrom. She's a research professor and shares her Nobel Memorial Prize that she gained in economic sciences last year with Oliver Williamson of the University of California at Berkeley. And lastly, Lee Hartwell, who is the chief scientist at the Biodesign Institute, which I'll describe here later in the comments, is also renowned for being the president and director emeritus at the Fred Hutchinson Cancer Research Center in Seattle, Washington. He gained his Nobel Prize in Physiology and Medicine in 2001. So we're very proud of the fact we have 3. We're hopeful of gathering more and more. Just like my colleague, we like to steal as many as we can along the way. And that's in terms of the New American University, very important to us to grow the academic programs through our faculty and students. But the most important thing to talk about today is the 3rd leg of that stool, which is impact. And as has been mentioned earlier today, research at a university really isn't that meaningful unless it can be applied in the real world. And by impact, what we mean is that what we want to do at ASU is focus on the kinds of things that can make a difference in our community, can actually advance technology in an applied way, can then result in the growth of jobs and new businesses and growth of the sectors that are already in our market, and attract new businesses in the process as well. So we are constantly looking at how and what we do at the university in our research arena to make sure that what we are doing can be applied and can grow the economy effectively. Again, it's impact to produce stuff. And the kinds of stuff that we're talking about today through the institutes and endeavors of the faculty members I'll profile here in a second are the kinds of things that draw upon the expertise of the university and the region so that we can look at clustered efforts of activity and presence of businesses and folks within the government sector that can look at an opportunity that Arizona has, that our market within the Phoenix market in particular has, and to find ways in which our research and our endeavors and our faculty and our investments can be made in a way that can advance that objective to grow the economy. We are all about public-private partnerships along the way, and I'll give you some case studies in that respect to show how we've invested our time and effort, how our partners have invested their time and effort and dollars to produce jobs and better the economy. So what do? The first thing that we do is we constantly look to hire faculty from the private sector. We try to find leaders who have been out there doing it, who can come to ASU to lead one of the multidisciplinary institutes and initiatives and programs that we have in some of our areas of strong suit, to make sure that we bring together people from all over the university in an interdisciplinary way. Again, to cut down through all the silos and to bring people together to work on significant challenges, to raise significant dollars, and to promote significant advancement that can be applied in the real world. What better way to do that is to bring people in who have done that throughout their experience. So Gary Dirks was hired about 1.5 years ago. He was the former leader of BP Asia. He was the president and CEO of BP Asia in China, where he managed the BP operations there. He grew the organization from relatively nothing to the point at which he had 1,300 employees and $4 billion in sales. We thought that's a guy who knows how to grow a business within the energy sector, and hired Gary to come on to ASU to lead something we call Lightworks. Lightworks is an umbrella organization of the university that captures everything that we do in the solar arena. So it's not just PV panels, it's not just finding the best way to produce the next traditional solar application, either in industry or residential use. It's to find ways to use the sun to create energy in all sorts of ways. So he led a group of over 20 universities and corporate entities to go after federal funding for the production of fuel with technologies that grow algae, farm algae, and take the lipids that are grown in algae and produce oils that are then refined and produce fuels. So we have a consortium that just won $6 million from the Department of Energy to further that sort of science. But the most important thing about how we went about doing that through Gary's leadership is it wasn't just an ASU endeavor. We led it, but we brought in people from all over the country, universities from all over the country, companies from all over the country, national labs from all over the country, to produce a proposal that could show how we could harness the effort and investment of all those groups to produce an advancement and innovation in that technology that could be applied in the real world, and that's why we won the money. We were the only university to get 2 RPE awards in the energy space. We have one in also growing bacteria to produce fuel, and one in new battery technology. So that as we all talk about renewable energy, one of the most important things, as you know, is that you can't use solar energy at all times of the day. If you got to be able to store that energy. So we're looking at new and different ways for battery technologies to be developed to take advantage of that opportunity. We got an RPE award in that respect as well. We couldn't have done that without a leader like Gary Dirks. Another example of how we work differently than other universities perhaps, and when we work closely with private industry to produce results, is through another hire. He's Denny Cortez. He spent 40 years at the Mayo Clinic. He was the leader of the Mayo Clinic and decided he needed to do something to give back. And we hired him to develop and produce this healthcare and delivery policy program, as we call it, a way of connecting with private industry to make sure that their healthcare programs and costs are as efficient and productive as they can be. So after spending 40 years with the Mayo Clinic, he is now here helping our private partners make sure that they can do their jobs better in a different way by producing a better way and approach to healthcare. And that, what they do is they look at ways in which people receive treatment and ways in which the healthcare industry is compensated for delivery of outcomes instead of simply doing every test under the sun. So Denny is starting that program now. We're very happy to have him after 40 years with Mayo. Werner Dahm is the former chief scientist of the Air Force. He just came on with Arizona State in November. And what we're doing with Werner is we're growing an entire, again, multidisciplinary institute and sector at ASU that cuts across all sorts of schools and programs to look at the assets that we have now that can serve the aerospace and defense marketplace, but look at them in a different way. It's not only the kinds of things that we can devote research and attention to advance the needs of the aerospace and defense community, but it's looking at the causes of conflict and looking at public policies associated with the growth and deployment and innovation within the aerospace and defense space. So Werner is a top-flight person from the government sector. He's a private employee of the Air Force, but he's from the government sector that we brought on to spearhead that effort. Like you, we have an existing cluster in the aerospace and defense sector. We intend to grow that. We have done an awful lot already within the state of Arizona to grow that. But one of the focuses we have is to bring in additional talent to make sure that the latest needs of the marketplace are met. And we feel the best ways to do that is to attract people like Werner. Alan Nelson is the current leader of the Biodesign Institute, one of the case studies I'll highlight in a minute. He comes to us through private industry as well after a very successful career, an entrepreneurial career in which he formed companies, plural, in the cancer treatment and prevention arena. He came to us because he saw in ASU the place at which he could come together with other faculty members from all over the university again at the Biodesign Institute to create some solutions and markets and products and companies to apply what we do at the Institute in the real world. One of the innovating things that Alan has promoted and developed at ASU since coming is something called the Impact Accelerator. So instead of the traditional model of the university simply producing new ideas, patenting those ideas, and possibly licensing them to the private sector so that the private sector can take the risk of advancing those improvements in technology and making a business of them. In the Impact Accelerator, what we do is we take the best ideas that have come out of the Biodesign Institute that have been promoted through a competitive process so that they then seek additional funding from the university, directly from the university, to take that idea further along the way, to actually develop it beyond the first stage of the lab, to an application stage so that a company can be created around that advancement in technology. Actually, management be hired so that a new startup company has been formed, all incubated within the Biodesign Institute with additional funding from the university. And then what we do is simply sell that company to private industry. So we merge it with somebody who's already out there, or we sell it to a group of financiers so that they can take that company and develop further in the commercial marketplace. So this is a new program. We're starting with 5 projects within Alan's leadership, and we'll see how that works. But it's a new and innovative way of sort of bridging the valley of death, as they call it, from innovation to the private commercialized marketplace. And what we want to do within the Biodesign Institute is not only do some research that has an application within the field of biosciences, but we want to create companies. We don't want to wait for somebody else to do it. We want to take the best ideas, invest more money to produce those companies and create jobs and boost the economy in the meantime. So the first thing we do is we hire people from outside academia. In many cases, we ask them to lead business-like groups and initiatives within the university. Much of what you'll hear me talk about now for the rest of the presentation is not on the academic side. I covered that with the access and excellence side of the New American University. From now on, what I say is pretty much a business presentation. What we talk about in terms of case studies and how we've deployed our assets, our skills and talents in combination with our partners in the private enterprise and government sectors to produce jobs and to advance the economy of our region and our state. So we do that not only by hiring folks like the ones I've just mentioned, but by connecting intimately with our partners. So by that I mean we convened the folks that I've just described and others at the university, just a short profile of the kinds of people we have at ASU. We bring them together in things like a CEO Forum series, where we bring business people in to talk to our business people in sectors that are important to the university, that are strong suits of ours in the research realm, and in emerging clusters within our economy in Arizona, renewable energy, for example. We bring them together for a day to talk about what we're doing, make sure they're aware of everything that we're doing, hear from them about their objectives, and use those connections as launching pads for further discussion, further research collaboration, or mining of interest so that we can make sure that the programs that we have at ASU are meaningful for their workforce needs. That's one way in which we connect with our partners. And another is to be really active players in how the state's policies are developed. We connect not only with the private sector, but with our friends within the state and local governments. In Arizona, we are really revitalizing and reorganizing the way in which the state is represented in commerce. We had a Department of Commerce that was not really functional, to be quite honest. For years and years, it was a highly politicized position. It was given too much to do with too little money, and it wasn't able to function as a legitimate Department of Commerce should, as a representative of the state. Our current governor has just connected on a program called the Arizona Commerce Authority. It's a new public-private partnership and a replacement for the Department of Commerce that will be coming out this year. ASU has been at the forefront in helping define how those policies might be conceived of, helping to convene sectors, people from sectors in the private world and government and academia around the strategically important areas for the state for development of policies and investment in those arenas. So we're not simply a university that does research on a hill somewhere. We're actively shoulder to shoulder with our partners in government to make sure that the policies that are produced and the investments made by the state are made appropriately. So you'll hear more about the Arizona Commerce Authority, and you'll hear more about our involvement within that. And then we're also part and parcel of all the economic development groups within the region and the state. I'm on the board of something called the Greater Phoenix Economic Council. It's a group of chambers of commerce throughout the region, without the Phoenix region. And what we do is we attract companies to the area. ASU is always one of the stories told when companies come to the area. I'm very proud of the fact that when renewable energy companies are coming to Arizona and Phoenix, and they are in greater numbers than ever before, one of the things we get to do is to talk to them at the very beginning, because what they want is a close partnership with a research institution like ASU. And when we have a chance to talk with them and connect with our CTOs and bring our faculty in to speak with them, frequently that's when the deal is closed. I actually saw one of those happen right in front of my eyes. I don't know what they were talking about. I brought the appropriate faculty member in to talk to the CTO. After 20 minutes of conversation, this is one of the world-leading inverter companies in the country in the world, from Italy. They decided to move to Phoenix after having already decided to move elsewhere previous to that conversation. So that's how we bring in people from private life to invigorate the way in which we configure and promote our research, and then we connect with our partners regularly to make sure that we're reaching the objectives we need to do. So here's some case studies and ways in which we've combined with private partners and government partners to produce products, stuff, the kinds of things that make an impact on our economy in the state. The Flexible Display Center is an example of that. It was a competitively bid project that the U.S. Army put out back in 2004. We had to bid for the right to produce what is now called the Flexible Display Center to help the Army realize their need for lightweight, flexible communication devices that could show real video, just like your BlackBerry screen does, but on very flexible material. So as you see the gentleman on the slide folding that plastic material, that is the flexible display that we're working on. We received $100 million in two separate grants from the Army. The first one was for $50 million for 5 years. It was renewed after progress that we made. We did that through a very innovative way of making use of some fallow assets within the marketplace. There was a mothballed semiconductor factory that was worth about $250 million, I'm told. We were able to buy it for 10 cents on the dollar. We bought that property. We made a bid to grab that project from the U.S. Army together with private partners, now numbering 27 people from all over that industry, the flexible display and electronics industry, and we won that bid. So now, as a result of that effort, and if this works for me, we can click onto the site for the Flexible Display Center. I can show you that we are happily working under one roof with 27 companies, as I mentioned, from all over the world in different ways that impact the development of flexible displays. So you can just see by the list that is on our website, leaders within aerospace and defense, electronics from all over the world coming together, as I said, under one roof with funding from the Army. Our private partners have put in probably $12 million. The Army put in $100 million. We bought and contributed the property and the programmatic and operational side of what we do there. One of the things that made that successful was that we've got a very productive IP policy that's associated with the Flexible Display Center. We have sort of a yours, mine, and ours IP policy associated with what goes on there. You might imagine with 27 private companies and with the university working under one roof, all of us trying to advance this technology, there's IP created all over the place. And how do you sort that out? Well, everyone joining this consortium to work here at the Flexible Display Center enters into an agreement that says it's either yours, mine, or ours. The benefit is, and so ownership is associated with who made that invention. We don't all own everything that was invented there, but we have a right to look at it and license it as we go. So that's been very productive and has helped bring people together under, as I say, one umbrella to advance that work at the Flexible Display Center. And with any luck, I can also simply turn to the next slide that will show this demonstration of the product itself, the stuff we've created there, which, as you can see, has a little bit of a beautiful army green display of a video that you'll see now. So you can see how flexible that material is. The first portion of this very short video shows that. You can actually shoot a hole through this material, and the display functions around the hole. I mean, that's an Army requirement, not a commercial marketplace requirement. But it shows how rugged that has to be. And for fans of Disney movies, you might see that there's a moving picture of the movie Cars on that display as it's being bent. So you can see that it is full motion video on very flexible material. We think that not only we will be able to fully satisfy what the Army needed within that development project, but there are other markets that will open up as a result of our work with flexible electronics. For example, you can take that kind of innovation and advancement and apply it to electric and electronic bandages. Bandages that can detect when a wound is not healing correctly because of moisture and temperature and administer medicine automatically. Those kinds of things can come from that kind of an advancement. I'll go quickly through the rest of the case studies that we have. One of the ways in which we work with our government and private partners is through the advancement of development of infrastructure. We work with the city of Phoenix to bring the schools mentioned on the slide to downtown. The city of Phoenix had a bond issuance of over $200 million to develop that property. It's been associated with what's estimated to be over $500 million in economic activity as a result every year. We have over 5,000 students there now, where we will be growing to 15,000 students ultimately. After the development came to be, we saw a growth of another $300 million or so investment in that portion of the city of Phoenix as a result of the location of our schools there. You can see a picture of the light rail that now is going through Phoenix. That helped as well. Licenses for bars and restaurants went up 25% in 1 year after this development really came online, as did retail licenses at over 33% growth. Just by having students located there and having our schools located there, we saw that kind of growth. Over 7,000 jobs were created as a result of that project. So we're very happy to say that's one way in which we work closely with our cities in the location of our buildings and infrastructure to help grow the economy. SkySong is the group or the innovation initiative of ASU that is a place for soft landing of companies from all over the country, but also from outside the United States. So in the southern part of Scottsdale, there was a defunct shopping mall, Los Arcos Shopping Mall, if anyone knows Scottsdale. It had been there for a number of years, and the city wanted to do something to invigorate the growth of that part of the city. We wanted a place to have not just an incubator, but an innovation center, a place for companies to come, have a physical space to be, and to grow within the United States throughout the new market for them, usually, but also to connect with the university, our faculty, and our students. We now have 45 companies there, representing 11 countries. We have 700 employees associated with that development. The city put up about $40 million to acquire the property and $45 million more for infrastructure. We have a private developer partner who put up the money to build the facilities. We have 2 buildings of 150,000 square feet each right now, almost fully occupied. One of the most successful real estate developments in the whole state. And it's largely because of that close connection with the university and the opportunity to grow the economy when companies come to Scottsdale in the marketplace with that connection in mind. We have entrepreneurship programs and ways in which students can grow businesses based on their ideas, as well as faculty. We believe that the economic impact of the SkySong facility is about $100 million in terms of jobs and payroll, and most of those jobs have come not in construction, although the initial stages of construction of the site were certainly involved in that job number. The next case study I'll briefly talk about is the Biodesign Institute. Here we built 2 buildings out of 4 that we ultimately will build, about 170,000 square foot each. The first building was built with university funds of about $70 million, and the state helped with development of the second building at $80 million. We've, as a result of the work that I talked about with Alan Nelson and trying to find ways to advance the biosciences and produce jobs and innovation with new businesses in the Impact Accelerator, we brought over $300 million in research to the university and to the market as a result of our collective investment in the Biodesign Institute. The last thing I'll talk about is something called AZ Smart, which takes advantage of the decision theater. It is a multi-screened environment in which we can display all sorts of data with high-performance computing support to examine ways in which, in this case, we can deploy solar in the state of Arizona to the economic impact and positive impact for the state. So we take where the sun shines, who owns the land, what the effect on the grid might be, and what the economic impact might be on the state for presumed new generation of solar within the state, all within one environment. We've built this with funds from private partners, all 3 utilities, and the state through the Science Foundation of Arizona. And we intend to produce a number of projects as a result of that collaboration, hopefully in partnership with the kinds of things that we're talking about here for growth in Nevada. And I had one more slide just to say we're growing to 300 million in research. We're going to 700 million in 10 years, so stay tuned. Thanks very much.